Plot summary of the Bacchae by Euripides. Dionysus, the Greek god of wine, fertility, ritual madness, and ecstasy, goes back to his home city of Thebes after his religion drove the women of Asia crazy. He says he's here to get revenge for his mother, Semele, who he thinks was wronged by her sisters and is being treated badly by Dionysus' cousin Pentheus, who is the current king of Thebes. Dionysus talks about his past. Zeus, the king of the gods, was in love with Semele, which made Zeus's wife, Hera, jealous. She got Semele to ask Zeus to show himself as he really was, which was a dangerous lightning storm that killed Semele. Zeus then stitched his unborn son Dionysus into his thigh to keep him safe. Dionysus is angry that Semele's sisters and Pentheus doubt this story and say it was made up by the sisters' father, Cadmus, who is also Dionysus and Pentheus' grandfather, to cover up Semele's embarrassing affair with a human. So, Dionysus wants to get even and show that he is a god in the process. The Bacchae are a group of hedonistic women who follow Dionysus. He has also turned the women of Thebes into Bacchae, including his aunts Ino, Autono, and Agave, who is Pentheus' mother. On Mount Cithaeron, these new Christians are taking part in drunken and sexually free Dionysian rituals. Dionysus, on the other hand, has changed into a human and disguised himself as a priest of his own religion. Cadmus, the former king of Thebes, and Tiresias, an old blind prophet, want to pay tribute to Dionysus by dressing in fawn skin and carrying thyrsi, which are tall rods wrapped in ivy and topped with pine cones. At this very moment, Pentheus returns to Thebes after being away for a few days. He makes it clear that he doesn't believe Dionysus is a god, and he makes fun of Cadmus and Tiresias for wanting to worship him. He says he will stop the fake magic of the Dionysian priest by locking him up and cutting off his head. The two old men tell Pentheus that if he doesn't listen to a god, he could end up in trouble. Pentheus tells his guards to catch the priest, who turns out to be Dionysus in disguise. The priest willingly gives himself up. The king questions his prisoner, and it's clear that he's attracted to how good-looking he is. But Dionysus's tricks make the king angry. Pentheus cuts Dionysus' hair off and takes away his thyrsus. He then tells his guards to lock Dionysus up in the palace. The chorus, which is a group of Bacchae who comment on what is happening in the play, calls for Dionysus, who uses his powers to make an earthquake and a fire that quickly bring the palace down. Dionysus tells the chorus that Pentheus didn't really lock him up, but a bull instead. He also says that the king tried to stab him, but just stabbed at the shadows. When Pentheus leaves the palace, he is surprised to see Dionysus standing right in front of him, still dressed as the priest. A herdsman shows up and tells a scary story about the Bacchae on the mountain. He says he saw the Bacchae, led by Agave, Ino, and Autono, relaxing among the fir trees and using their thyrsi to pull milk, wine, and honey from the ground. Plus, it looked like the women were feeding wild animals from their breasts. When the herdsman saw this, he thought it would help the king if he caught Agave and brought her back to the palace. But the Bacchae quickly turned on the herdsman and his helpers when they saw them. When the men got away, the women turned on some nearby cattle and tore them apart limb by limb. Still angry, the Bacchae swooped down on nearby villages and stole children and houses. When the villagers tried to fight back, the Bacchae's thyrsi tore their skin open. The herdsman ends his story by telling Pentheus, whoever this god may be, he is clearly so powerful that he should be welcome to Thebes. The herdsman's story seems to interest Pentheus, so Dionysus, as the priest, takes advantage of this by asking Pentheus if he would like to spy on the Bacchae and see their scary behavior up close. Surprisingly, the king really wants to do this. Dionysus tells him that Pentheus should dress as a woman so that the Bacchae won't attack him like they did the herdsman. Pentheus agrees to cross-dress, and Dionysus helps him put on his clothes in the ruins of the palace. When they get back, it's clear that Pentheus loves his new life as a woman. He asks Dionysus how he looks as a woman and wants to make sure that everything about his outfit is perfect. As they all move towards the mountain, the chorus asks the quick hounds of madness to kill Pentheus. The second messenger comes on stage and tells everyone that Pentheus has died. He says that Dionysus bent the trunk of a tall fir tree and put Pentheus on top of it so that the king could see the Bacchae better. Once Pentheus was stuck on top of the tree, Dionysus called his followers from the sky to attack the mortal who mocked him. Like the cattle earlier, Pentheus was literally torn apart in a brutal attack led by his own mother, who did not recognize him despite his desperate attempts to tell her who he was. Back at the palace, the chorus sings about how terrible it was that Pentheus died. Agave comes back, carrying the head of Pentheus on her thyrsus. She thinks she has killed a mountain lion, and she brags to her father, Cadmus, about how good she is at hunting. He tells her to look up at the sky, which seems to stop her from going crazy. She looks at the head of Pentheus and realizes she made a terrible mistake, even though she doesn't remember killing him. Dionysus shows up and makes fun of Agave and Cadmus for not worshipping him as much as he thinks he deserves. He then tells Cadmus what will happen to him. The old man and his wife, Harmonia, will be turned into snakes and sent back to Greece as barbarian invaders, but they will eventually be brought to the land of the blessed. When Dionysus leaves, Cadmus and Agave say a sad goodbye to each other. They leave the stage in opposite directions, which means that their royal family is going to be destroyed. The chorus has the last word, telling the audience that gods act in strange ways, and that's what's happened here today.
About the author. Euripides was the son of Nicarchus, and his family was thought to be smart and wealthy. Euripides was good at painting and sports as well as writing poetry and putting on plays. He had 3 sons from his 2 marriages. Even though not much is known about Euripides' life, it is thought that he was taught by Protagoras, who was an agnostic at the time. An agnostic is someone who doesn't believe that anything can be known about God or gods. Euripides was a member of the Sophists, a group of teachers and scholars who valued skepticism, intelligence, and convincing arguments. Euripides was a lifelong friend of Socrates. Both of them were thought to be intellectually lazy in their time. Euripides was a poet and playwright who wrote about 90 plays, but only 19 of them have been found. In ancient Greece, tragedy was a highly regarded art form, but it also had its detractors. Euripides' plays were often entered into competitions that the government paid for as part of dramatic festivals. Even though he wrote a lot and became famous after he died, Euripides only won first place in these contests 5 times. People say that Euripides left Athens in 408 to live and write in Macedonia because he had lost favor in Greece and didn't want to be killed like his friend Socrates. Euripides was well known in his own time, and his work has had a big impact on theater ever since.
Hope we summarized it fully and you liked it. Please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel so that we are motivated to create more videos.